Hello guys, Tivik here and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where I am going to design Aquila 3, and I actually added the flag this time. Take a look at it. Isn't it nice? Oh yeah. So, what is this going to be? Well, I'm going to go into space. Of course, that's the whole point of this game. But we are setting up some standard pod stuff at first, like chutes and decouplers, and then we start building. And of course, using parts packs, I got the AS fuel tank there, and yeah. With the real chutes mod, by the way, you can set the deploy altitude, so I lower that and increase the diameter of the chute once it's fully deployed. That will help it slow down and fall slower. Something which really isn't that much of a necessity with such a small pod, but I could do it, so I tested it out. So, right. So we do have someone who can't quite make up his mind when he's building rockets. Well, that's me in a nutshell. I redesign, I change, and try different things. And here I try out one of the engines from the AS pack. I must say I like the look of the engines, but I don't like the way that they work with decouplers. But I don't know. We'll see. Some experiments will need to be taken on this flight, of course, and I think we need another stage. As you see, I go back and forth until I find the engine that I like. If you take a look down in the bottom left corner, you see my Delta V, and it's currently 2000 on the upper stage and 2300 on the bottom stage, which is not too bad. So I decide that we should be using at least some boosters. How's that for booster? With staging, probably, but not sure I like that look of it. Especially since I can't put on any kind of aerodynamic caps. So instead we're gonna go with these. Oh yeah, they're looking better. Much better. So, how's that looking? Yeah, I increased the gimbal range on the engine just so I get better turn on it, and I think that's about it. I turned off the gimbal on the boosters, I usually do. Right, so who's gonna go up? This is the third flight. We're gonna get Jorgen Kerman. Oh yeah. He's new, he hasn't been out yet. As you can see, Genby has splashed down and landed on Kerbin. Sandred was the first Kerbal in space. It's just one mission for him, but that was a lot. Dangerous EVA, splashdown, actually splashdown. I think they have a typo there. They have the Kerbin surface EVA, and yeah, plenty of ribbons to get. The dangerous EVA one is kind of cool. I like the idea of that. So when you have an orbit that is going back to Kerbin, but let's head off to Launchpad, shall we? And off we go, and incredibly loud, and as you can see, the engine shut-off activated there because the boosters are pushing me faster than the, well, 2G that I've told it to go. Right, so we are accelerating up. I'm turning the rocket so it's easy for me to pitch down, and off with the boosters. And here we go, Jorgard is on his way up to orbit. Now, somewhere in his notes, someone made a slight mistake. So when it comes to the order of which experiment to use, he activates the wrong one. But the goo jiggles and wobbles as the craft flies, so all is good there. So it's gonna keep that data and continue up, pushing the apoapsis up over 14 kilometers now. And as you can see, the time to apoapsis, which is visible up in the HUD, is 30 seconds, and it's going up, which is good. As long as it's going upwards, that means that you're actually gaining altitude, and oh, that's a bit wobbly. I'm trying my best to keep this pitched the way I want it, but it's not especially stable, unfortunately, but we'll get there with a little bit of wobble and a little bit of trying to balance this thing, and Jorgard sits there in the corner looking very, very happy. Incredibly happy, actually. but who wouldn't be? He's going to space. And down below we can see the Kerbal Space Center in all its glory. And I activate the SAS module there so I can stabilize this rocket. It's we're getting up into the thinner atmosphere, so we're not actually that plagued by the atmospheric drag, so we should be able to control it a bit better now just with the gimbal of the engine. As you can see, again, the order of these experiments was messed up in his notes. Why, you might ask? Well, this pod is coming down, so I was hoping to use that pod on ground, but unfortunately that didn't work. So here I bring up the flight engineer from Kerbal Engineer, which is a very nice little mod. It has a lot of useful information that you can see, especially like delta V and information about your ship in general. But I have most of that in my heads-up display, although I will be using Kerbal Engineer quite a lot. We're coming up to cut off on the third stage, as fuel is running very, very low on that. And I cut off, let's see, there we go. And this little rocket doesn't look much, but it packs a punch. So we are gaining altitude. I'm using the precise node mod here, and just activating the buttons for the different options in precise node, because it lets you snap the node to a specific point on the orbit, like for instance periapsis or apoapsis, like I do there. Now you can use that to increase prograde by meters per second. I go 10 meters and realize that's quite little, but we're getting there. As you can see, we're going to need about 300 something meters per second to make an orbit, and oh, I overshoot by quite a lot. I'm not going to make a 300,000 kilometer orbit, or 370 kilometer orbit. There we go. Pretty much 80 kilometer orbit. That's good. So I turn to the marker and we fire the engines, but first some more science. They wobble as they bounce around inside the container. Okay, so let's fire the engine soon, I think. We have... Oh, we got about a minute to node. So it's not something that I would use the alarm clock for. It's just a minute. But the Kerbal alarm clock lets me set very good limits on when to stop time accelerating and stuff like that. And here we go. And it's a bit wobbly, but I'm keeping the inclination as much as possible to 0, but it's 0.6 right now and it's going down. I think I might be turning a little bit just to make sure that I lower that. No, maybe not. And there we go, we are orbital with an apoapsis of 91, periapsis of 79 kilometers, which means that we are now outside of the atmosphere all the way around. So now it's all up to the engineers down at Kerbal Space Center to make sure that we have enough fuel to come back down. But of course, we do need to collect these experiments, although I didn't actually collect them. Well, raising the apoapsis up quite high here, just to see. We don't have a lot of energy in this craft. We only have about half hour or so, I think. Maybe a little bit less. So as my energy is starting to go low, it's down to 12 units, 10 units, 8, 7, and oh, electric charge is running out. And here's the problem. We need to make sure that we have electric charge or he will freeze to death. So I decide that we should deorbit this. It's the safest thing to do after all. We can't let Jorgard starve to death or freeze up in space. let's see. We don't have anything new, but I figured he'll do an EVA. We are suborbital, but if we're careful, this should be fine. Oh, come on. Use that little pack engine. There we go. And, oh. Yeah, your guard isn't the most experienced with EVAs. Well, that's kind of... It's kind of obvious, though. Not a lot of them should be. I mean, he's the only one who's been in a stable orbit, is it? Or maybe Genby did. I can't remember. Okay, trying here to grab onto the craft so we can get the last experiment data. Come on, here we go. Yes, collected. And now we need to find our way back in before we enter the atmosphere. We are starting to descend now. And there we go. Grab and... Whee! In. Get inside. There we go. Safe. So, Mission Control decides to land this thing in the desert to pick up some science from there. So we do a slight burn to get down, and then we realize we have 16 seconds of electricity left. Well, should be fine. So, let's head down. Now we're at the mercy of gravity here. So we arm the parachute and head down to the planet. And take a look here at the beautiful entry effects. I like this. Fire all around the craft. And I just lost my notebook in a heap of snack papers. And here we go. We are now in a parachute descent. Excellent. And we end up in the highlands instead of the desert. But hey, that works too, I suppose. So here we are. Your guard steps out and we are safe on the planet. And it seems we are on our home planet, yes. So we head back in and take a look at our science results here. We picked up a little bit of science, so we're going to pick up the science tech. So we get batteries and capacitors and more science experiments. Then look around a bit. I only have 30 science, so... That laser does look interesting though. I can give you a little bit of a spoiler that one is very useful when you're landing stuff, but I don't end up using it that much. The solar panels though, they are very good. So electrics is the next one I'm gonna go for. There's some science there as well and some antennas. So, Final Frontier, the mod that adds these ribbons. Jorgard got 5 ribbons in this. Wow. Dangerous EVA, not bad. Surface EVA, well, he did that for taking his footsteps. Kerbal EVA, yes, and he got the first landing, and this is a bit confusing at first because Genby was the first one who landed, wasn't it? And Samdred did that too. Well, it turns out it's actually because Genby splashed down, so did Samdred, but Jorgard actually landed, so he got the first landing on Kerbal ribbon. Cool, huh? And we go straight for another launch. And listen to the sound of that. This is Aquila 4. Aquila 4, well, you'll see it, never made it to orbit. It started off very well. It tilted off to the side and we started following the prograde marker, the yellow marker in the naval there, but as you can see here, I start to yaw more and more to the left to keep the nose up, but nothing's really happening at all. And Bobville there is looking a bit worried, and I should be worried as well, because it turns out the gimbal range on these engines is really, really small. That's not a good thing at all. So Bobville hits the abort button and everything comes apart, and look at that, almost stuck together again. Velocity is going down, or vertical velocity is going down, and we will parachute back down to Kerbal again. So what went wrong? Well, as I said, the gimbal range on the engines was very, very, very small. That's really what causes this kind of thing. I do have a lot of failed launches, and I thought I'd let you know that I do simulation launches for my rockets a lot. Sometimes I record, sometimes I don't. So there might be times when you see the first launch or see the launch of a craft for the first time, but I've already flown it a couple times. But that's just the way it is. It's simulations. It's all simulations. And the goo escapes into the water. No, you have to stop it. So how did I build Aquila 4? Well, as soon as we have taken our... well, I think we go back. Yeah, we'll go back. Actually, EVA report and surface sample can never hurt. I didn't actually do an EVA report. Anyhow, this is Aquila 4, and I'm speeding this up because I had a lot of testing while building this. We got some batteries now, and batteries are very useful. These AS batteries are nice, but not sure. Well, I'm gonna use one at least. Experiments and parachute, yes. Now, let's see. Nope, I got rid of the battery. Opted in for a bigger one, and we can't place it so that it's... Yeah, look at that. Can't block the pod. And we got some new cool tools, like for instance this magnetic boom, magnetometer boom. It's a thing to measure the magnetic field. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to... I start out building a pod, but I realize I want to try something a bit different. And there you see the thrust limiter and the gimbal range sliders. Yeah, I want to try something different with this rocket. So I build, at first, I construct this thing with batteries. Check the life support view to see how much I have. But this is where I run into problems, because this magnetometer boom, it's quite big. It takes a lot of space and doesn't quite fit. So I end up taking apart half the ship just to get that thing to fit somewhere. So what I do, I take off the engine part there. Then I add a girder segment. But I do that between some fairing rings, because that will allow me to use procedural fairings to set up a shielded area which won't be affected by drag as much. So I think it's just one set. No, maybe it's two. We add some batteries. I don't like how they kind of hover, but they are actually set on. Yep, we add a second one, and then the decoupler part for the fairings at the bottom. Oh, at the bottom I said, there we go. And then we can start looking at adding the magnetometer boom. But at first I just try to add it like this. Then I realize I shouldn't be dumb. I can turn it around. So I put it inside the girder there. Makes it come out on the other side there. It does make it very tricky to click on though, because the girder will take the hitbox. So I just place it down, go into the action groups for it to set that up as, well, toggle magnetometer, I think I do, yeah. And then we turn around. Oh, not that way. That way. There we go. Now it's set up. I can't click it, but I can use the action group. Perfect. And then it's just a question of building the rest of it. I do go in and make sure that I have the right thing later, I think. Yeah, I do. There we go. I do go in, so it's log magnetometer data, because if I don't do that, somehow I can't click it. That would be kind of catastrophic. Right. I experiment with the idea of adding goo, but Look at that. It's just a little bit too wide, isn't it? Yeah. No, don't like the way that's gonna look. So off with the goo. I do test it out. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work actually. Nah, away with it. And I did think about adding the goo inside, but the boom is there, so it's probably not gonna work. There we go. It's still not pretty, but it works. Yeah, it's gonna work. So back to a bit higher speed here, so we can just watch as this is constructed. We're going to be adding some... Yeah, I did remember to add the flag there as well. We need engines to lift this. And if you remember, I added some small boosters. You've seen the rocket, so... Small boosters to the side. Nah, something like that. Yeah, that'll do. And we can make the top aerodynamic ones with or without fuel. I actually removed the fuel from them, I think. And yeah, some fins. You always need to add fins. But we're gonna have to take a look at the actual mission in the next episode because we are running out of time for this one. So I do hope that you have enjoyed this, and the next one we'll see Gusford, I think. No, Bobfield? Yeah, Bobfield. So see you in the next episode. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.